You know that one scene in The Empire Strikes Back where the Millennium Falcon's on the run from TIE fighters, and in order to get away, they land inside of an asteroid. But then, while repairing the Millennium Falcon, Han realizes that they actually landed inside of the mouth of a giant space worm and have to fly out of there. That scene is why Starfield and basically every space game is held to such a high standard. Everyone's been chasing that moment where they feel like Han Solo in space. And while this does apply to every space game, I really think Starfield is taking the brunt of it this time. Everybody had it in their head that Starfield was gonna be the one. It's gonna be the best space flight. There's gonna be really cool things that happen while you're flying your ship. You're gonna have action on foot, RPG elements, you're gonna build a reputation, and some of these things are true, but in reality, it's just a space-themed Bethesda RPG. Of course, saying it's just a space-themed Bethesda RPG still means that it's a Bethesda RPG with all of the good and the bad that sometimes comes with that.
I'm in the business of saving civilian lives. I figure this research outpost qualifies.
If Mast found out, there could be a court-martial.
We could blame any good piece of space science fiction for wanting to hop in a starship and zip through the galaxy, but for me, The Empire Strikes Back is the best example of an intergalactic journey. Rather than focusing on one main conflict, the protagonists are on their own path, their own journeys, and they hit their own bumps along the way. On one hand, you've got Luke, who's trying to complete his Jedi training, so he flies to Dagobah to meet Yoda, crashes his X-Wing into a swamp, and the story goes from there. And on the other hand, you've got the Millennium Falcon with Han, Leia, Chewie, and the droids, and they're just doing their best to not get captured. They're making repairs to the ship on the go. They're trying to figure out why the hyperdrive won't work, having all these issues just to land in Cloud City where more problems find them. Focusing on the difficulty of the journey makes the movie extremely relatable, because I know you might not have crashed your X-Wing into a swamp, but you've likely had a flat tire on your car, or you've probably popped your chain off on a bike. These things aren't necessarily things we want to experience, but they are the sorts of things that inspire interesting stories. You're gonna have something to say about that when it's over. Where The Empire Strikes Back is all about the journey, Starfield is all about its destinations. These destinations have characters you're gonna meet, you're gonna build relationships with them, you're gonna have combat scenarios, exploration, there's gonna be loot. Space travel itself is surprisingly simple in Starfield. You maneuver through areas of space, but when you have to jump from one area to another to land on a planet, you essentially just open up your star map, select where you wanna go, and hit yes. And when it comes to the ship itself, your level as a pilot and the ship's level with gear is the only thing keeping you from going to farther destinations. You don't need to refuel your ship, you don't need to replace certain components if they get destroyed. There's just one big blanket repair and you're on your way. So Starfield is going out of its way to make sure that you are able to get to your next destination seamlessly. This is where we realize that Starfield is more of a space action drama and less of a journey through the unforgiving void. Now, this isn't to say that a space action drama doesn't have its own merits. In fact, some of the most fun you'll have in Skyrim and Fallout is what happens when you build your character's reputation.
Hey, you're finally awake.
Causing trouble is one of the best ways to have fun in those games. Players get a chance to craft this personality that they might not embody in real life. I don't know about you, but I'm not casting fire spells on everybody I meet. But Skyrim also heavily encourages exploration by forcing you to get to the next main city or objective by foot. And along the path, you're gonna find things that are laid out for you to explore, whether it's a cave, an enemy to fight, a person to meet and form a relationship with, whether that's a good one or a bad one. These things are where Skyrim really shines, because it's where you feel as though you have the most agency. And yes, I'm sure those things are all laid across on a path in a meaningful way for you to find them, but it doesn't change the fact that it feels like exploration. In Starfield, the in-between moments lead you to side quests, but these side quests feel more like scripted moments that the game literally stops you in your tracks for. In one of the early game examples, I'm hailed by a ship that calls me Charlie 3, who happens to mention a system that needs help, happens to be a system that's really close by, and what else am I doing in this game? So I go to my star map, I select that system, and now I'm on some side quest. A side quest which, by the way, managed to break itself because it wouldn't spawn any more enemies. As it turns out, if there's no enemies, that doesn't mean the evasion's over, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. This is what we expect from Bethesda RPGs, even at their best. But by Starfield boiling everything down to fast travel and landing at specific points, the sense of exploration is sort of thrown out the window. You can explore planets, but not really. You can scan monsters and aliens on the planets, but that only has so much worth. In reality, Starfield is a space-based Bethesda RPG, and that's also okay. My biggest complaint is that everybody, including Bethesda, seemed to imply that this would be the ultimate space exploration, RPG, action, adventure, all of these things, when really it's just a fairly linear but also open-ended RPG set in space. I loved Fallout 3 and I loved Skyrim. I wasn't too crazy about Fallout 4 just because of the base building, but these are the games that I think of when I think of Bethesda, and they're good games. And once you adjust your expectations for Starfield, I truly think it's an enjoyable experience for people who want a new Bethesda RPG set in space. And I think the most troubling part of all of this is that the next game that's making this promise to be a Star Wars-like experience is in fact a Star Wars themed game. Ubisoft is working on Star Wars Outlaws. We've already seen some gameplay and it looks kind of fun, but it's Ubisoft and their Assassin's Creed series usually winds up feeling like more of a checklist game, and that's not so cool. But they've shown off some starship combat, they've shown off interplanetary flight, riding a speeder bike on planets. I mean, this is what I want. I want that Star Wars experience in a game, and if it's in the Star Wars universe, that's even better. But is this just gonna be an Ubisoft open world action adventure game, or is it gonna be the game we're all waiting for? Are we gonna be able to park on a sketchy asteroid and maybe get attacked by an alien worm? I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. But I'm gonna just go ahead and say that let's be cautious as we look forward to Star Wars Outlaws. Let's take a moment to remember video games have limits, even though we want them to not, and this is also Ubisoft. So we don't know what they're gonna crank out. It could be amazing and surprise everybody, but expectations are best left to when we actually have something in our hands. So do you think Star Wars ruined the concept of space games before they even had a chance to exist? I think the answer is yes, but I also think that video games are finding a way to catch up every day, and I'm just excited to enjoy more space games because there's plenty of good ones out there. I think I'm gonna make a follow-up video that shows off a bunch of cool space exploration games because there are a ton of cool ones to play. Let me know in the comments what you've been playing lately. Is it Starfield? Is it something else? I am excited to keep playing Starfield now that I've readjusted my expectations for the game, and I hope that you're enjoying it for what it is if you decided to play it. Thanks very much for letting me talk your ear off about Star Wars, Starfield, space video games, and video games in general. That's what this channel's for, and I appreciate you sticking around. Good luck in the unforgiving void, and I will see you in the next video.